Hi, this is Mike. First time ever doing a YouTube video, so we'll see how this goes. But I thought it would be of interest to particularly rotary engine enthusiasts to do a video, and if I get enough likes, perhaps a series of videos on my 1985 RX7 GSL-SE. Had the car for approximately 13 years or so. Been slowly doing repairs as the owner, operator, and maintainer of this car. Today I thought I'd start with a video that I don't see any information on YouTube, which is I'm in the middle of the installation or replacement of the original equipment header and exhaust system with replacement of the beautiful Racing Beat header, pre-silencer, and exhaust system. So I'd like to, this is perhaps maybe part one of the video, because I'm in the middle of the job currently, and I thought I would at least relay my experience with this install. I'm not a trained mechanic, but I've done all the work myself, learning over the years. Anyways, if you see here what we have, I kind of laid out on the floor so you can kind of see what we have so far. But this is the older components here in the front. You can see is the original equipment factory exhaust system. So you can see here we have, I believe these are kind of catalytic converters and or thermal exhaust, plus the catalytic converter. Plus we have a connecting pipe, and this is very important, as I'll get into here in a minute, along with the factory exhaust. What you also see here on the ground is the factory air control valve, which pumps air into or controls the airflow from the air pump. And you can see these are now removed from the car. In a minute we'll go to the engine bay, and I'll show you how that looks now with these items removed. What we don't have in the system is the factory cast iron exhaust manifold. That is still in the car. It is loosened up, ready to come out of the car, but we haven't taken it out yet. That will be in the next video. So what I'd like to do is, here in a minute we'll go to the engine bay, and I'll explain a little bit what I've discovered along the way. But the hardest part of this was getting the old system out. So I would encourage anyone doing this job to be prepared that probably 80% of this job is getting the old system out, and getting it out in a fashion where you're not breaking bolts. Mine being a 30-year-old exhaust system was very seized together. Used a lot of PB blaster, impact guns, and I also used a mixture of 50% acetone and 50% automatic transmission fluid. That actually was very effective, getting a lot of the loose bolts, and a couple of them I just had to cut off. They were not coming free. So that wrestling the old system off is what you need to prepare for this job, because that is the hardest part of this job. Additionally, I'd like to point out that this is one main section of the shielding that goes above the exhaust system. I've removed that because it was an opportunity while the exhaust system was out to inspect the body above this and make sure there was no damage, no rust going on. Fortunately, mine seems to be in pretty good shape. While I was there, I did some things like lubricate my my emergency brake cable and things of that nature. It's real important that when you have parts out of the car, to try to do other things while you have the opportunity to do so. So this shielding will go back in. It'll go above the exhaust system to protect the car from heat, but I did remove it for the time being so I could get in there and do an inspection. So what I'd like to do now is we're going to go ahead and cut the video, and then we'll go to the engine bay. I'm going to do a quick overview of the engine bay so you can show the difficulties I had, and so far what we got going on with the block-off plate, the air pump, and those things removed. So I'll see you in a minute. Okay, I forgot to mention one thing. I can't stress enough when you're removing the old exhaust system, the first part that's really critical is you need to save. This is a factory connecting pipe that goes from the exhaust to the first catalytic converter. This is the only piece that Racing Beat does not provide a replacement for, so you have to reuse this. And I can't stress enough how important it is to take care with this. It's a pretty robust piece of iron there, so it should be in good shape as long as you don't have too much trouble with the bolts, which I did, but we did get them out. But the big thing with this is I have yet to be able to find a replacement for this. So not only will Racing Beat not provide one, I can't find where you can buy it. It is a discontinued part from Mazda. I could not find one on Atkins Rotary or any other place, so it's real important. Man, if you can get this, it'll save you a lot of headache. I just wanted to show real quick the underneath of the car that shows what the existing exhaust manifold looks like, and you can see that there's two studs, one here and one over there. It's already loose, as you can see. Mine's ready to come out, so I'm really excited to start to pull this. But I wanted to kind of show the lay of the land here so you can see what we're working with. I'm also going to remove this shield here because I think it'll kind of be in the way of removing this. So what I expect is we're going to loosen these bolts, and then it's going to come this way, and then it's going to come down. And you have to be careful because this thing does have a little bit of weight to it. You don't want to smack yourself in the head dropping the thing, so just be ready. But when it comes down, I think it'll slide this way and come out. At least that's the game plan. So, that'll happen hopefully by the time the next video comes. We'll see a Racing Beat header installed there, and I'll be able to start explaining that. I know most of you rotary enthusiasts know what this car is, but those of you who don't or still just curious, this is the GSL-SE model they did in 1984 and 85. This is an 85 car, model year car. So as you know, this is the 13B rotary with the electronic gas injection, or the fuel injection, however you want to refer to it. So pretty much it's all stock. I haven't done any significant modifications other than just trying to do good maintenance, keep the car up to speed. When I got the car, it was not in good shape, so it's taken 13 years to get it up to a good, respectable, serviceable level. Again, if I get enough likes in this video, I'll do a series of videos on the history of this car because it has come a long way. So here in a second, we'll come around to the other side and I'll show you in detail what has been done and what needs to be done yet for the installation of the Racing Beat exhaust system. What we have here, you can see, again, anybody who's familiar with this engine might see that some things have been removed. If you're not familiar, I'll go over that right now. So the first thing I did was remove the factory airflow pipe, which goes about right here. So it's just two bolts here and here. Loosen this screw, and then it does come off nicely. This is a good time to inspect this for any holes, any damage, to see if you're getting any vacuum leaks. Again, try to inspect everything while you have an opportunity or while you have it in your hands. So that's the first thing I did, just to get some room to work in there. The next thing to do is remove. This is the factory air pump. So for those unfamiliar with that, just a second, it goes in generally like this. It sits somewhere down in there. Okay, down further. And this loose belt that you can see dangling here goes over that. I'll get into that belt here in a minute. But that drives the air pump, or the smog pump, and obviously this was installed for emissions. This is probably a good, I don't know, 15, 20 pounds maybe, it seems like. So you get to remove this. This will not go back in the car. we're going to leave this out. So that'll be some weight savings. So that's the first thing you want to do. You do that by loosening a bolt here on this bracket, along with a bolt here, and there's a third bolt. So it's 3 bolts to get this out, and then obviously you want to squeeze these clamps together to get the tubes loose, and with a little bit of wiggling, it comes right out. Okay. The next thing, so you want to do, and you have to do this first, is removal of the air control valve. So the air control valve sits right here. And as you can see, with that installed, it is impossible to get to the top of the existing exhaust manifold. So this has to come out. And again, because this is used in conjunction with the air pump, this will not go back into the car. So this was 3 bolts here, here. And in my case, it was a stud and a nut on the top. Some cars have 3 studs, some have 3 bolts. If yours has a stud, for the install of the block-off plate, you need to remove the stud. I was able to just grab mine with a pair of vice grips and just turn it and loosen it, and it came right out. You want to be very careful not to snap these off in the engine block, or you're going to have a little bit more games to play with that. So just take your time. Again, use a lot of that acetone, automatic transmission fluid mix that really helps to loosen things up, or a PB blaster, or whatever you prefer. Okay, so once those are removed, Racing Beat does a nice job. They provide this block-off plate. That was where the air control valve went. You can see here I have mine bolted on. So it just bolts right on there. Again, I had to take this top stud out. That way I could get the bolts in. But it went right in. Another thing I want to mention while I'm thinking about it is I'm a big proponent of anti-seize. Everything that comes off of this car, including the heat shielding, every single nut and bolt will have anti-seize when it goes back on. I'm a big believer in that. It just makes your life easier down the road if you ever have to get these parts off again. And then the last thing is, way down here, we may not be able to see it, Racing Beat provides you a red plug down below to block off the tubing that the air pump was plugged into. So it goes right in there, and then it blocks off that canister. I may look at later to see if that canister can actually be removed altogether, but right now it's just plugged up there with the red plug. The last thing we need to do is removal. You can only see it from the top. So here's a heat shield, and underneath the car is the exhaust manifold. And the most difficult thing is getting to the top exhaust manifold bolts. There's 2 of them here at the top, and those have been loosened. This is probably the second most risky part of the job. You do not want to snap off those studs. So again, take several days if you need to. Hit them every day with PB Blaster, the automatic transmission fluid mix I discussed, and break that rust up before you get on those. Fortunately, mine was pretty good. Did that for a day or 2, and it came out, and they came right loose. So you need to kind of get the top 2 sort of by feel. I haven't found a better way to do that. They do come loose. And then down below, there's 2 more underneath, so 4 total bolts. The last thing you need to do is disconnect the oxygen sensor, which is this guy right here. So there's a little, you just disconnect that, and there's a lead coming from the engine here, right about here. So you want to disconnect it. You can see here it's got a little knuckle on there. Just lift the green lock off, and it'll come right free. So you disconnect that. So right now, in part 2, I'm going to drop this exhaust manifold out now that the bolts are loosened. And part 2 will be hopefully after we've installed the Racing Beat header and exhaust, we can show everybody what it looks like. And, please like the video if this is useful at all. Obviously, I didn't do any work in progress, but hopefully I did a good enough overview you can understand what needs to be done to get this system installed.